Welcome back. It is always a good day. When I wake up, I give thanks, and the realization comes over me that it is my day to record with another intriguing individual that has a great story and also a fantastic new book. I'm holding it up for my YouTube fans. It's the Grief and Happiness Handbook. I, as you can see, went a little nuts with my sticky notes. I'll introduce Emily in just a moment. First, just a nice little thank you to all the countries that are tuning in. Every time I go on, it's absolutely amazing how many people are finding the show. I think the downloads were up 43%. And I'm just so very, very grateful. Of course, the United States, huge. Canada, right in at number 2. The UK just surpassed Australia as my number 3 country, then Australia, Italy, Ireland, New Zealand, Croatia, Luxembourg, and India. So I'm very, very grateful. And I do want to say the number 1 city that I have overall, for some reason, is St. Louis, Missouri. So thank you, St. Louis. I don't know what's going on. I'm shaking my head. I used to travel there a lot when I was in the record industry, but I'm very, very grateful. It was just a huge, huge couple weeks out of St. Louis. Okay, my guest today on the next room is Emily Thiroux Threatt, and she has a fabulous new book. It's called The Grief and Happiness Handbook. It's a supportive guide to help you reclaim your life while grieving. And boy, oh boy, aren't we all grieving? Welcome to the next room, Emily. I'm so happy you're here to tell me all about this beautiful book.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here too. It's wonderful to talk to you.
You know, Emily, when I first, got your book, I sat down and I quickly realized it's one of those books that you need a highlighter and you need your sticky notes. And I kept saying, oh my goodness, so many people will benefit from this book. It's not one of those books that you read, cover to cover and just, be done with it. It literally is a workbook. It is a handbook. It is something to be highlighted, and you can learn from all of these. So I'm just going to start with my notes. So chapter 5, the power of journaling. Let's talk about journaling through your grief and how you have found it to be beneficial.
Oh, journaling. I do journaling every single morning, first thing when I wake up before I do anything else. And I find it so helpful to me because it clears out that all those thoughts that bounce around in your monkey mind so that you can focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on. And I find that journaling in grieving was just, I don't know what I would have done without it. I've had 2 husbands die, and after the second one died, I was living on Maui, and we'd only been here 2 years, so I didn't know a lot of people, and I felt very much alone, and my thoughts could drive me crazy. But if I'd write things down in my journal, then I could work through them. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and finally I realized the kinds of things that I was writing would help other people too. So I set up a meetup and had people come to my house to write about their loss, and boy, they showed up. It was really exciting to be able to help people that way, and they all saw the value of the journaling that we did.
You know what's great about when I have an opportunity to speak to someone like yourself? You just rolled right into my second question, which was great. I was going to ask you, why grief and why this book? And now that I know your story a little bit, so you've suffered the loss of not one, but 2 husbands. And so did you set out to heal yourself? And so that's why you're now helping others?
Essentially, one of the things that I was wrestling with after Ron died here in Maui, I didn't know what I was going to do then, because my life had been very full with all the different things that I'd been doing. And now I was in a place that I didn't know a lot of people. I wasn't sure what to do. And I really wrestled with that. And I discovered what I was working on. I kept saying, what's my life purpose? What am I supposed to do now? And really looking for my purpose. And what came to me was that I could bring comfort, support, love, and happiness to people who are grieving. And so that's the direction I took it. And I found several different ways that I do that all the time now.
Perfectly aligned with what I was going to ask you about next. So, chapter 13 is called Serving Others. So, let's talk about serving others through our pain and through our grief.
It makes all the difference in the world if you have something you can do that's comforting to somebody else, because that reflects back on you. It gives you comfort yourself when you're doing that. And I've had wonderful experiences with people that really felt like they were kind of stuck. And by starting to write about it, it really helped. During the pandemic, I transferred, or the people that were coming to my house didn't want to go online. And I thought, I can't, sorry, I can't stop doing this, helping people with writing through grief. So I put it online on Zoom. And that led to developing the Grief and Happiness Alliance, which now meets every week. We have gatherings every week. Doesn't cost anything to the people who come, because we also created a nonprofit organization to pay for it so that people wouldn't have to pay for help with their grief. And every week we write together, then break into breakup rooms so that we can talk about what we wrote, and we learn a happiness practice. And at the end of the session, every time, everybody's smiling, and it feels so good.
Mm. Emily, I love that. I mean, here you are working through your pain and you're thinking, what's my purpose? And now you've created the Grief and Happiness Handbook and griefandhappiness.com. I love what you're saying about helping other people absolutely free,
Mhm.
that people don't have to pay to work through their grief. And chapter 15, one of my favorites, I just quoted this to my daughter last night: laughter is the best medicine. Let's talk about working laughter into our grief.
Well, I had a experience with my aunt. My aunt and uncle were in a terrible car accident. My uncle was killed, and my aunt was severely injured. And when she was recovering at home and doing a little bit better, she had a hospital bed in her living room, and she was so excited to see us, and it was so nice to visit with her. And I noticed, this was back in the days when there were VHS tapes. I noticed the one tape that was sitting out was Patch Adams. And I said, "Oh, you like that movie?" She goes, "I watch it almost every day, because it makes me laugh." And that has done more for my healing, both physically with her injuries and with helping her deal with the death of her husband so suddenly, than anything else that she did. And that stuck with me all these years, that laughter is really important. And so I try to find things that will make people smile, make them happy, that can brighten their day. And it's hard to laugh and be really sad at the same time.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And I think they've actually done a lot of clinical studies
Oh, yeah.
about, it's sort of like, it's not just what you ingest in your body, but it's also what comes into your psyche, what you're listening to. And yeah, it's very important to laugh. I love chapter 16 because I'm a big gratitude girl. Chapter 16 in the Grief and Happiness Handbook is show appreciation. So let's talk about gratitude and appreciation.
Gratitude makes all the difference. It's just huge. When Jacques, my first husband who died, after he died, I was not happy. And I sat by myself a lot because I just didn't have a clue what to do. And it got to the point where my friends were beginning to be concerned about me. And two different friends told me I needed to watch the movie The Secret. And I thought, oh, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing. And they said, no, watch it. And I just kind of ignored them. So finally, one of them brought it to my house one night and said, we're watching the movie The Secret. And I thought it was interesting. And at the end, when I went to put the DVD away, there was a paper in the case that said, write 10 things you're happy for. And I thought, I don't have anything to be happy for. My husband died.
Wow.
And I thought, there's a reason that this is here. There's a reason that I'm doing that. So I started writing down things that I was grateful for. And I easily filled up 10 things and was shocked because that was not what my monkey mind had been telling me. So I started writing more, and it got to be almost an obsession. I kept thinking, well, I'm happy about that. And thank you for that. And isn't it wonderful that this person did that, or whatever it was. And I would be writing it constantly. I'd be standing in the line at the bank and pull out a receipt out of my purse to write something down so I wouldn't forget it.
Mm.
And it turned my life around to see that while I'd been thinking that my life was all sad and bad, it really wasn't. And my life really was rich and wonderful and worth staying awake to so that I could enjoy it.
Wow. This is just a reminder for day-to-day living.
Hmm.
And here you are mired in grief over the loss of your husband. And, it became an obsession, giving thanks. And really, when we stop and just, open our eyes each morning, there's thanks right there. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
still here. I still have the opportunity. I love that. Show appreciation. My guest is Emily Thiroux Threatt. It's the Grief and Happiness Handbook. It is absolutely beautiful. It's a supportive guide to help you reclaim your life through grieving. This is for you YouTube people. I will put links to her website and to her book, so you don't have to go Googling and looking around for it. You'll be able to find it. Okay, let's see what Jane has next. I have chapter 18, another big, I'm loving this book, by the way. It's just so good. Change. Let's talk about how change plays into someone's grief.
Well, when you have someone die, there's drastic change in your life, and you can accept it and make the best of it, or you can fight it. And when you realize that the positive way is to accept it and see what you can do, then you can start moving forward. And there's so many changes that come with grieving, and it's okay. I made big changes after Jacques died that I was really shocked about. We had lived in the home we were in for 22 years, and I figured I was going to be there forever. And it was a 4-bedroom house, and I was by myself, and it had a pool and all these things I had to take care of all by myself. And I thought, this is too much. So I found myself in a planned living community where there's small houses, but we're all together and share yards and share the pool, and I don't have to clean it. And it was so wonderful to move into a space that I didn't feel overwhelmed by the space. And I was surprised that I could just accept that change, but it felt so good. And it also made me realize that I could make decisions on my own. I could do things on my own. And because we had done everything together for so long, I wasn't sure, and I had never lived by myself before. So I thought, I can do this. And I did. And the more I did, the better it got.
Hmm.
And one of the big things that happened to me was with Ron, after at the first New Year's that happened after Ron died, I thought, I got to figure out what to do now. I'd been doing the best that I could, but I thought, I'm going to make one New Year's resolution and I'm going to keep it, and it's going to be good. And what came to me was to accept invitations. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh, whoops, nobody's inviting me anyplace or to do anything. Why would I do that? But I said, it came to me so strongly, I have to do this. And so I wrote in my journal that this year I was going to accept invitations. And they started coming to me, and they were fabulous. I
Mm.
got to do things that I never would have thought of to go after myself, but people were coming to me and say, hey, would you like to do this? And it ranged from being on the editorial board for the newspaper to taking a trip to South Africa, to being a nurse on a cross-country bicycle racing team, to creating a film festival. It was just one thing after another kept coming to me. And each one of them, I made new friends, I met new people. I had new experiences, and I really started enjoying my life again.
Wow. So it takes us full circle. We go back to, I think it was chapter 5, which is journaling, which opened you up to say, I'm ready for change. So through that change, you make a resolution and you manifested all of these amazing invitations. Wow. This is really, really helpful to, and all of us are grieving in some way. Sometimes it's
Yes,
the grief of a loss of a job, or it is a loved one, or it could be financial hardship or a terminal illness. There's all kinds of things we grieve throughout our life. So this isn't just for someone who has lost a loved one. This is
that's right.
really practical, great, amazing information. And you are living proof to that change. Wow, really great. The Grief and Happiness Handbook. I'll have all the links for you. Emily, let's see what I have next. Ooh, I love this one too. Big topic in my life since I still have a career in this side of things. Music. It says music. It's the music of life, chapter 19. Let's talk about music for the grieving person.
Music is so special. All music that you listen to, whatever style or genre or whatever it is, it's a communication. It's a beauty. It's an experience each time, and you can easily get lost in the music. And Jacques loved Baroque music, especially by Bach, and he played that a lot. And Ron loved jazz. And so whenever I hear one or the other, or when I'm missing one or the other, I will listen to that kind of music. And then there were songs that were special to us. With Jacques was a wonderful singer, and he would sing. He especially liked to entertain kids, and they loved to hear him sing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." So, and he always sang "My Funny Valentine" to me whenever he'd be performing someplace. He'd sing that for me, and then he'd apologize afterwards. So he says, "The words are just don't mean they're not how I feel," but he just liked the song, and he considered me his Valentine, and so we looked at it like that. And then with Ron, when we were really beginning to fall in love, he sang to me, could it be I'm falling in love with you? And then one day I came home and he said, I heard this song today and it's our song. I said, oh, great. What is that song? And he said, it's Stevie Wonder's A-S. And he played it for me, and it blew me away because it was our relationship. It was us. It was how we lived. It's what we do. And I find that, especially when I get to be thinking about Ron or missing him, the song will come up. It'll be on the radio, or it'll be one time when I just was especially thinking about him, it started coming on a TV commercial that got played over and over and over again. And it was the final episode of Blackish. It would kind of pulled everything together, and the music that accompanied it was and we'd always watched Blackish together, and it just was so perfect.
Hmm.
So you can get lost in the music. Music can comfort you, can soothe you. It can make you happy. It can make you dance, make you move. There's all kinds of wonderful things with music.
What I'm hearing through this as well is signs.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is a sign. Here you had this bond of certain music with each different husband. And with Ron, you have this song, and all of a sudden it's coming up. It's almost to me like he may be a little shout out from the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Do
It's
you have a connection to the afterlife, or do you ever contemplate what is next in the next room?
um I feel I feel the presence of both of my husbands. at different times. And it's sometimes it's funny. There'll be something that just kind of cracks me up. For instance, my phone. I did something and I ended up needing to reset stuff on my phone. And when it came back up, it had his name as the owner of the phone. And it was my phone. It had always been my phone, my number with my name, and his name came up. And then maybe a year or so later than that, Ron was a minister, and my name came up on my phone, and where it identifies me any place is Reverend Emily Threatt. I thought nobody but Ron could have done that, just to say, hi,
Right.
I'm there.
That's great. I really appreciate you sharing that with me, because it wasn't in the book. I wasn't following, but I felt like some presence, and I felt like, uh-oh, I think maybe Ron might be saying hello. Chapter 22. And this is good because I really want to touch base on this particular topic. It's called Helping Others in Their Grief. Here you are, you have had deep grief over 2 losses, and you seem so joyous and so cheerful. Did you have those moments where you didn't know what to do or how to shake yourself out of it? Because that's what really, I think that's what individuals are craving right now, is trying to figure how to break through the darkness and get to the light, which is exactly what it seems to me that you have found.
Yes, and I found that I mentioned the movie The Secret, and Marcy Shimoff was in the movie The Secret, and she wrote a book called Happy for No Reason. And I happened to just come upon that book after I had watched the movie, and I thought, she was the one that was in the movie. And so I got it because I thought, I have no reason to be happy now, so happy for no reason sounds like a good idea. And I read it, and it helped. And then that was after Jacques died. And then when I was developing all these things like the Grief and Happiness Alliance and that sort of thing, when I was in the process of doing that, I was teaching these classes or facilitating classes online, and I was writing the books, and I thought that something's missing in the books and what I'm doing, and I realized it was happiness. And so I looked at Marcy Shimoff just online to see what it said about that, and I found that she had a Happy for No Reason certified training program, and I thought, I'm doing that. So I'm now a Happy for No Reason certified trainer, and the program taught all the things that she's done with happiness research and different things about happy and different happiness and different happiness practices. And you can use anything that she gives you any way you want to once you're certified. And I thought, perfect, how can I use this? So I created the Grief and Happiness podcast, which I have 2 episodes every week. I created the Grief and Happiness Alliance. And when I first came up with that idea, I thought, I don't know, I tell people about it and they go, grief and happiness, that doesn't mix. That's an oxymoron. You can't do that. And I said, I think I can. So I pulled quite a few different people together that I'd known from different areas over the years. So it wasn't just my close friends. And we did a pilot program. And at the end of it, they were so excited about what I wanted to do with the happiness, with grief and happiness, that they're the ones that came up with the idea of creating the nonprofit to support it so that people wouldn't have to pay.
I love it. Griefandhappiness.com. So what am I going to find when I go to griefandhappiness.com? So there's a nonprofit there. And then what kind of tools and services do you have that are available to those that are grieving absolutely free of charge?
We have the gatherings that we do on Zoom every week, and you can sign up for it there. I have a newsletter that I put out every week that you can sign up for, and it's always got helpful things in it, that something new and different every week. And it's just once a week, so it's not like overwhelming. You're not going to get spammed in your inbox. And we create different events that we can do online. we're right now partnering with Sadie Bale, I said it wrong, Sadie Bale from Italy. And several of the people that come to Grief and Happiness gatherings came because they saw me interviewed on her International Grief Summit that she does, called From Mourning to Light, mourning with
Yes,
a OU.
I was on her
And
show as well. She's
so you know what I'm
great.
talking about. Well,
Yes, I do.
Sadie and my group, the Grief and Happiness Alliance, are combining to do that summit now.
Oh, very
And
nice.
yeah, I'm really excited about that. And that's something free. And we have experts like you from all over that will be interviewing with the focus on grief and happiness, really. So it fit right together with what we're doing. And I admire her so much because she's ended up facilitating getting people to me with my international audience.
That's awesome. Yeah, she's great. I have not spoken to her in a long time. That was probably a couple years ago. We met through the Beautiful Dying Expo and I came on her show and it was really, really interesting. She's got a very kind heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that the individuals in our collective industry that are working with grief and death and dying and hospice care and, green burial practices, it's almost like to a person, everyone I'm in contact with has the right heart for this business because we're all really trying to help people. That's my number one thing. Like if someone can hear this show and then they go and they pick up your new book and it helps them through their process, their deep grief, then I know I've succeeded. And I hear from people all the time, thanking me for having different guests on. So I'm so happy you're here today, Emily Thiroux Threatt. It's the Grief and Happiness Handbook. It's a supportive guide to help you reclaim your life while grieving. I do want to mention, too, it's not just all these little tidbits and all of this great information, but there's actually places for you to journal, which I really like, so as you are reading what she's saying, then she's going to take action. Happiness habits, your intention, your gratitude, your happiness, your affirmation, all of these wonderful little, I'm getting goosebumps, little great places that you can share where you're coming from. So it really is a handy handbook. My goodness, this went fast, but I want you to talk to me about anything perhaps that I didn't touch on that you would like to share. Because as I told you when we started, this is your show, Emily.
Well, something for me is very exciting that we just started. I created this book, or both of these books actually, from an experience I had where a good friend of my husband's died suddenly just a few months after he did. And they were family friends, both of us. And she lived on the mainland and I'd moved to Maui, and I was so concerned about how I could support her. And she was a lot younger, and I knew that she had no idea that she was going to find herself in this situation. So I decided I would write her something every week for a year.
Mm.
And I did that, and I'd make little cards where I'd put a picture on the front of something beautiful I took on Hawaii and on Maui here. And she valued them so much. She said it was so good. So I would print those off, another set of 52 whenever I knew somebody close to me who had loss, and I'd send those to them. And I thought, this is an outline for a book. And so that's where the book came from. And she told me, and several other people have told me, you need to publish those cards. And so we just did. It just came out, and it's also available on Amazon, and it's called the Grief and Happiness Cards. And it has, they're beautiful. They're nice, kind of heavy duty cards. They come in a box, and there's 52 of them, one for each week for that first year. And one side has a beautiful picture. I'm just so thrilled with how they turned out. And the other side has on it essentially the chapters in the book. You get like a little synopsis of something helpful that's going to do something for you at that moment. It's something for you to think about. It's something to comfort and support you. And they're in a box, so you can pull one out when you want to, or you can, if you have a friend who's dealing with loss and you want to support them for a year, get a box and put one in an envelope every week or every month and send it to them for that first year, or give it as a bereavement gift. They're beautiful, and the people that have seen them are just crazy about them. They say they're just so supportive that they love them.
Fantastic. Another just inspirational idea that was born from you coming from your heart and being generous to help a friend. Boy, oh boy, this is really great. Those sound fantastic. Grief and Happiness cards, griefandhappiness.com, where you can connect with Emily and check out her podcast, which I have not done yet. I have to be honest with you. I did not know you had a podcast. So I'm very excited to be able to check that out as well. Emily Thiroux Threatt is my guest. It's the Grief and Happiness Handbook, a supportive guide to help you reclaim your life while grieving. And I will tell you, you will love this book. And the cards sound like a super fun thing too. Any final words in closing, Emily?
I want people, my goal here is to have people realize that they really can be happy when they're dealing with loss. It's not two separate things. They can coexist, and your life will be so much richer when you allow that to happen.
Wise words. Thank you very much for joining me on The Next Room. Emily Thiroux Threatt, my guest. It's the Grief and Happiness Handbook. It's available through Amazon. Of course, I'll put all the links, and I'll put the link to the cards as well. Thank you for joining me. I will be back next week. I believe next week I actually have a comedian, and he went through a lot of loss, and he came out smiling and laughing and joking on the other side. His name's Gonzo. And so I met him when I was up at a book talk at the Crooked Path in Burbank. And a couple days later, I got a message from him. And he just said my message really resonated with him. So check out the show next week with Gonzo. Thank you so much for listening to The Next Room. I'll talk to you again next week.